would like to call the meeting, call to order the meeting of the 222 Main Street Oversight Committee. We have a second,
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, we have, I guess Ed is technically a guest at this point.
Right,
Okay.
but there's no reason we can't involve him.
No, but there's no reason. Yeah, Ed, we want, I mean, you've never attended before, but we'll go through the whole process, but while there's generally a thing for public comments at the end, we generally look for comments as we're going along and things. Those attending generally are very smart on the topic and can help us with information. So type in when you feel free.
Okay, thank you.
First order is the minutes from May 16th.
Anybody have any comments on the minutes?
I'm
They look good to me.
good with them.
Thank you.
Here.
Oh,
Hmm?
I think I took a look at him. I didn't see what was funny.
Yeah. So what was funny, Fred?
The contractor, the quality assurance for the wall,
Yeah,
the last time it said this actually stopped the flow of water through the contained soils. Struck me very big hard to very quickly.
Well, that's actually though, yeah, but that's the question is whether we can, in fact. So maybe the way I should put that is, meet the parameters required to stop the flow of
Well,
water.
they. You don't see the top of the walls, very. Point of the construction, and it's. It'd be hard to, I mean, you can't you'd expect a leak at the base of the wall, maybe, and you can't, there's no way. There's no way you can inspect that.
I mean, the only way you can expect it is basically by looking downstream and see
Yeah.
what continues to flow. I mean, right? So,
Well, that's what's gonna be in the quality assurance plan, I
yeah,
assume.
so,
So how they're gonna determine that? That it performs the task it was designed to perform. Is that a better phrase for that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, okay, so. Um. And. And performs. As expected,
Yeah,
if we're concerned about the detail of what gets measured there, because that's.
that's a concise way of putting it.
So Ed, we're reviewing our old minutes and the paragraph is the current 95% design does not include the construction quality assurance plan. This plan will describe how the contractor will determine if the wall is really built in the right place, is as deep as it is supposed to be, is seamless around the perimeter, and performs as expected is the new phrase for it. Because I had something that wasn't quite.
yeah, and
Right place, pick it up, move it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, if you dig down like this and then you dig one this way, they don't meet.
Right,
Then-
that's a problem.
That's a big problem.
Because a couple of degrees offset at the top means a big offset at the bottom, if
Yeah.
it's angular.
There, and I. What happened on this computer? I went looking for information on that device, but, okay, well, let's get to the main
Yeah,
letter
let's do
stuff. So,
There's one typo on the. Oversight of the page, this line down. The word sold should be solid.
Ah. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Is somebody gonna make a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
I'll motion.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
okay. Before we get to the review of the documents, I just wanna. I know I got an email from the town. While I had done the training, I didn't fill out the paperwork afterwards. I thought the training online, they could tell I did the training. But I needed to sign something afterwards, so I don't know if anyone else got,
I didn't get
Pink.
that.
so, okay.
I get the emails like, once every couple of weeks that I better, do the paperwork,
So,
basically.
okay, so
But I've already done it. That's the thing.
we'll
And
reach back with Lori, invite Lori, I think is probably reaching out to you then and see what she thinks you're missing or what, I mean, and
yeah, I mean, I've already been to the townhouse and talked to them and, I asked them if there's anything else I need to do. And they said no. but
Okay.
I will check it out. I'll
okay,
check it
so
out.
who knows, maybe that's, this was actually from the town saying I had done the training, it's just.
Yeah,
I hadn't signed the piece of paper saying I had done the training, even though they could see online that I had done the training, so.
Mm.
That's one reason I'm raising it. I had a conversation with Paul during town meeting at that point, and I haven't gone to look regarding who would be our new select board person. They hadn't decided by that point, but based on his comments, I mean, I think we're high on the list for what he wants to do based on his background with this site, so.
He should have gotten the email about,
I did put him on,
yeah,
but the only, likewise, the town website did not have a select board email for him, so I used the email
old
that
one.
I had from
Yeah.
him, so. Okay. And this is a public document, so, but I will.
what document?
I get the funds of, fun of having multiple screens opening and not. Share. The comment about the machine and the ability to be within ranges. I found this online. It was just about the hydro mill, and I didn't really appreciate them, but I don't know if there's truly ties to right, the company that's going to do this is Trevicos or something. So,
Yeah, it's a combination of two companies. Trevi was one of them.
yeah, and this is from their website from Great Britain, so I'll send that out afterwards to everybody. It's like a 16-page brochure on that, so.
Did everybody get those, YouTube videos on, that Kara sent out to us? Have you had a chance to see those?
You know,
Is that about the same thing?
Yeah, well, basically, yeah, it's, there's no voice or, it's just music in the background, but it shows the animation of what they assume is gonna happen.
okay, so,
But there's like 3 of them, which are pretty informative, actually.
I have to go back and look, I don't recall, that doesn't mean I didn't get them, so.
They're in public on YouTube.
Kara sent them,
Kara sent them.
yeah, Kara sent them.
Yeah, it's 3, I think.
There were 3, yeah,
Okay.
Pretty short ones. so-
Yeah. yeah, a
Do you
couple
want-
of minutes each.
So do you want me to put links in the minutes to the document and the YouTube videos?
Yeah,
If
I'm
anyone
sure.
else wants?
Yeah.
That should be fine.
And I'll send you the link for that, I mean, that's.
Yeah. So I talked to Doug Gifford.
Yeah.
Who is the person who is a member of crew for many years. He lives in Concord.
Yeah,
Glenn has been recommending that we invite him to these meetings and invite him to join the committee. He has indeed put in a green card and reviewed this document, and we don't really have the information yet. We don't have the comments yet from him.
Right.
But
His written comments, yeah.
yeah, but and he wasn't able to make the meeting today, but he mentioned, we had a long discussion about the hydromat machines. He had hydromill machines. He has a lot of experience with them. And when I was talking to him about the concerns I had about what might be in the QAP, he was very much well, it has these kinds of instruments on it for keeping track of, you know, what direction it's milling in, what the position is in the ground. He was very intimately experienced with these machines and was very happy to hear that that they had been selected, and pointed out that decades ago he had commented that they should be used for this
Okay,
purpose.
Is he familiar
This is
with
the method they-
Trivios? No.
Hmm?
Is he familiar with Trivios?
I think he thought it was a decent company, but I don't think he worked there, but.
Yeah, I can just say that Treviicos is a fairly significant brand name in the Boston construction industry for slurry wall construction, deep foundation construction. You know, as long as I've been involved in Boston, which is, unfortunately a few decades, they've been around. So quality group from what I've seen and what I've heard.
But that this, he said that this was what he was urging them to pick this method
so-
to do this project. So, he also had expressed to me concerns that they were not keying into bedrock all the way around. He was reiterating some of Len's comments that basically, for all the information that they've collected over what the till is made of and what the different layers are, you don't know that there isn't some little sand layer in the till, and the machine will not, the way the materials are dug up, you will not be able to tell if there is a sand layer as opposed to just sand mixed in with the till when it's coming up from
Okay.
the digging.
Well, also too, is if you look at the maps and you look at the legend, they refer to flow till and glacial till. Now, there's normally two types of till in New England. And one of them is harder than the other, and I'm not sure which is which. But I think flow till is the older, more dense type of till, and that wasn't mentioned in the text at all. The only way I knew about that is just by looking at the legend, so. I'm curious if they were able to distinguish between the two types of till in the boring logs.
Okay, you're saying between
Flow till
and glacial till?
and glacial till, yeah. Well, they're both glacial till. It's just that one is older from a pre-glacial episode. And it's
Which one
generally
is
the
older?
hardest, and I'm not sure which is which.
Yeah. And Doug pointed out that when you're building a tunnel or a sub-basement or something like that, you can actually, there's some level of water that can come through it that is considered still acceptable.
So there's a percentage of flow on this.
And this as well, and that's because all you're keeping in is the water. Whereas if you have contaminants that you're concerned about getting through, as opposed to just
Water.
the water, that is a reason to move further than to sort of belt and suspenders and key into the bedrock all the way around.
Okay,
So he was gonna write that up. I assume that's in those
Okay,
comments
yeah.
that he wrote, but I thought it was interesting because that's something that's been reflected by Len on the
Yeah.
committee for a while, and
I don't know if they're gonna change it though, at this
Yeah.
point. They seem to be pretty set on that.
and I gotta go back. One of my things I kept on reading was like, how far are we going in the bedrock? Cause it seemed to, it might just been as I read it, I wasn't paying closely enough attention, but the numbers seem to still float from place to place and. what-
3 feet, 3 feet into
Yeah,
the
3 feet.
rock.
Yeah. Hey, just a question I have when you're debating this in terms of, and that makes perfect sense. I think VHB is the engineer of record here. Do they have examples of something like this, in terms of where they've had a combination of, embedding into bedrock and glacial till on the same kind of, general project? Do they have any data on that, just out of curiosity?
so this is a project where the wall is gonna remain supported on both sides by dirt. Functionally, as opposed to when you're building a tunnel where you build the walls into the dirt and then you dig out the
Yeah.
soil in once the structure is made, or a sub basement.
Yeah,
So I guess my question is, I don't know whether they have, it's not that common for people to do,
containment, yeah, yeah,
containment as opposed to,
yeah, just a question, I mean, that maybe it'll either give the committee more confidence or less confidence if, based on, track record is good, right? In terms of just understanding going forward.
the track record is really good for this contractor, for the work that they've done. They have the
Oh,
right
yeah.
experience, and Doug was suggesting that they're the leaders in the field for this
Yep.
kind of,
Yeah,
and that it's the right technique and that they're doing the right things and they can be trusted to follow a QA QC plan and
oh, yeah,
and that
no.
it will work. His point was that what is acceptable for building purposes for a structure might not be acceptable for, in this case, for that small amount of material that will still leach through,
Yeah.
which is, reduced by two to three orders of magnitude compared to what it is now. As far as the movement through the soil, that is still not potentially, that when you have contaminated water as opposed to just water, that maybe that's worth working for
Yeah.
to a higher standard.
Yeah, makes sense.
Do you find anything like that you were concerned about? Could you get access to the document? Okay.
Yes, yeah. And, so kind of read through the executive summaries and then looked at the plans and skipped the 800 pages of lab tests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks to me like from what they're saying on page 19 of the document is they're gonna go 2.5 feet deeper on the cutting than they had originally planned. But only, they give an example, they're gonna go 5.5 feet into bedrock with the cutting wheel. And only backfill 3 feet of that. So apparently there's gonna be 2.5 feet that are gonna be cut by the wheel, but not backfill. So how are they gonna deal with that?
So are you talking about the trench that they build to align the? So
No, I'm-
they build like a trench to do the work in, so
Right.
that they're working in a trench, and so that the trench guides the
Panel construction, yeah.
panel construction. Is that the trench or is that?
This is the depth into bedrock only,
Oh, okay.
what they're seeing, and
Yeah.
it explains it, if you look on, if you have
Yeah,
access to the document, look on page 19.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, it sounds like there's gonna be 2.5 feet that aren't, nobody knows what to do with, they're not gonna backfill it. Because they're
Well,
gonna backfill to 3 feet into bedrock.
when they dig, they're replacing it with a slurry that they then dig out and backfill. So I assume there will be some slurry still down
There'll
there.
be a slurry, but that slurry's gonna come out too. That's gonna be,
No,
that's gonna be pushed out by the trimming road.
Can you find the part that he's looking
yeah,
at?
that's right there up is,
It's a footnote, basically.
yeah, right down here.
Yeah,
Let's see if I can. I will enlarge it now, but.
so my question is, what's gonna happen to the extra 2.5 feet there? That's gonna be cut but not backfilled.
I didn't read it that way, but that's. It's not letting me. Let's see on this one if I can. Span the screen totally. Oh. Yeah, so I mean, it talks about the measure that it's, the tips of the cutters are down by 2.5 feet below the center line, meaning
Yeah.
that the center line of the cutters will embed 3 feet into the rock. The tip of the cutter wheels will embed approximately 5.5, so.
So it's just saying that it's a V-shaped cut.
No,
I think that's right.
Okay.
but is that going to, do more for the hydraulic conductivity in that 2.5 feet? Is that gonna open up, more passageways? Where it's gonna be cut already, even if it's V-shaped? If it's cut, it's gonna, enhance the hydraulic conductivity of that particular section. At least
So it's
that's
gonna
my
be a
take on it.
V-shaped channel,
Right,
and it's gonna get, all of it's gonna get filled, this V shape to the top with the slurry wall,
Right.
with the replacement
and
wall.
then the backfilled material is gonna push that slurry wall up and out,
Right,
basically.
but I believe that the backfill will go all the way down to the bottom.
we
They're
should-
only saying that the 3 feet, it only counts, they only count this 5.5 foot deep thing as 3 feet because of the V shape at the bottom is what
Yeah,
they're trying to
Yeah.
say with this, right? Or am
That's
I,
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go, Len, I'm gonna go back and reread it myself and see if I can come up with how the question. I understand, your question there. That was one of the places I flagged because of, this got into my, what depth are we cutting this to?
Yeah,
So.
well, we should ask anyway.
We'll just
Let
ask for
them tell us.
clarification, yeah, just for clarification,
Yeah.
what is meant by this, okay. I'm gonna stop sharing so I can go back to typing notes.
so far we have please put it in all the way into the bedrock because we're concerned about a sand layer, an
Yeah.
undetectable sand layer. And this one is the footnote on page 16. We're concerned about what is meant by this.
Yeah.
Does this imply that there's some area that's not backfilled of what's dug into bedrock?
Um. I had a question on, well, since we're about somewhere there. Um. Showing my ignorance, does dip direction make sense to everybody else? I was still trying to figure what that meant by dip direction.
It's fractured dip, yeah, I mean, there's usually I think there's 2 sets of fractures. At different angles, but, I'm not sure that's gonna be an issue,
Okay,
cause that area is gonna be backfilled.
I had a question on TSCA sampling, and
That's sampling for
this is
PCBs
PCBs.
greater than 50 parts per million.
But there's discussions of 1 milligram a kilogram.
is it
It talked about here, like this one I can probably enlarge because it's like this. We're talking about the detection greater than 1 milligram per kilogram at 7 locations, however, remains below the 50. But it then talks about soil samples in the area exceeding. In compliance, and I was. I was a little confused by this. This is.
Well, if it's not a if it's not a toxic waste, greater than 50, then it doesn't require any,
Okay,
special treatment or disposal. Only if it's greater than 50 ppm.
milligram per kilogram is how many parts per million?
One ppm.
1, okay.
ppm is equal to milligrams per kilogram. It's more correct to say milligrams per kilogram, but it's essentially the same thing.
Okay,
I don't understand why, I thought anything below, anything above 1 had to be dug up and removed.
It does, but it doesn't require any special characterization or any special disposal requirements. I thought they got all that stuff anyway, all that tossed waste. They've done
Is
enough,
this
they've
about-
done enough sampling.
This about the digging of the wall, though? Are they saying if we find something that's, or is it totally unrelated to the wall? It's the soils around the holding basin.
it's, I took it as not removal material in general.
Okay.
I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of these I just flagged as like, okay, does this make sense to other people? It's just my ignorance, and so if Len's okay with it and stuff, I mean,
So anything above 1 milligram has to be removed, but it
Right.
only has to go to a Tosca place for disposal if it's above 50.
It's about 50, yeah.
Okay, so that's what that's about.
okay.
If you look at those YouTube videos that Kara sent, there's one, it's kind of neat. It shows the excavation being backfilled with slurry. And then the trimming grout is poured in from the bottom up, and it's actually, you actually see it pushing the slurry up. So that's ideally what's supposed to happen. It's
Yeah.
supposed to displace the slurry in the trench. But my question is, what's to keep them from basically being missable? I mean, if you look at the and I'm trying to say here. If you look at the ingredients of both the backfill and the slurry, they're not that much different. I mean, the slurry is 69% sodium bentonite in water. And the backfill that they're gonna use is also has sodium bentonite water, but it also has aggregate.
Mhm.
So, I mean, to me, in my mind, one shouldn't displace the other. They should mix. How are you gonna keep them from mixing?
Well, isn't ultimately the additional aggregate is what you want to do?
Unless it's the density difference.
Yeah,
It might, but, I mean, that's a question that we might wanna have answered. It might just be the density difference between the backfill and the slurry. But compositionally, they're very similar.
Backfill is the
Backfill is what,
concrete for the wall.
you're right,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and the
That's what they
slurry
call
is just a temporary,
Yeah, That mud.
to keep the sides of the wall from collapsing.
yeah.
That's it.
I mean,
think
it's not like oil and water.
No.
Which don't mix, which obviously are not miscible, but these should be miscible, and how are they gonna keep them from mixing? Because you wanna get all the slurry out of there, because then you have to clean it. And get the sand out, so you have to de-sand the slurry.
The slurry would be much less viscous than the concrete
Yeah, I
is.
mean, I'd like to hear that from these guys, though. From the Maximus, how they're gonna keep the two from mixing.
This is what they call the plastic concrete, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
Or is that just for the
it's,
walls that go just to seal it up?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is for our information because we know that this works.
Yeah,
Because other uses of this method, actually, you have visibility of the wall afterwards. It's not still buried, so you can see once you've dug out the insides of your parking deck or your tunnel, that
You
this
can-
wall, that indeed it has mixed properly. So we want to know for our benefit, how do they keep the slurry from mixing with the
Right,
backfill when they're backfilling?
right.
For my job, where, you know, reviewing stuff, you know, we sort of like approve the comments or disapprove the comments, or approve and no comments. My gut reaction, we haven't decided this yet, but basically, we approve what they're saying, we just have some comments that are, you
Yeah,
know,
you have some questions that we'd like to have answered.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
Um. And Pam, you made a comment, that's one thing I know we talked to on plate, but. You know, there's references to a lot of documents in here that will be delivered, and it's sort of like, when will those be delivered, such as. You know, the construction quality assurance QC plan is referenced on page. I use paper page 1 versus document PDF
Right.
page 1.
Right, right.
You know, has that been delivered yet? Um,
That hasn't been delivered yet.
Yeah, so-
We're expecting that.
yeah, there was. The statement of work, it talks about updating supporting documents. And I noted throughout, there's documents, and some of these documents we've noted before. Are dated to like 3 years ago with people's phone numbers and stuff, making sure those are all updated before they. Proceed. You know. So you use a,
I think they did say something about monitoring concrete, as it was poured.
I didn't see that in the RD, but,
I think
that should be in
you'd
the,
have to have someone, the truck drives up full of concrete. Made to specifications someplace else, someone should look at it and make sure
yeah,
it's the right stuff.
yeah, I mean, how are we gonna ensure that,
well, that's,
I think they said
This stuff
having
on
somebody
site.
else going to do that.
but yeah, this is where, and that sort of ties into another question I had was. Based on the definition, discussions of water. One of my questions, because it talks about groundwater analytic testing, you know, when the water is sufficient potability for what they need.
Mhm.
This is coming from the Concord water plant system, and how much drain on our water plan, you know, is this going to be when they're doing this?
well, it's gonna be a drain, but whether it's gonna show up in. You know, in the volume of water that we use for drinking,
Yeah, I mean, that's.
We won't know if there isn't a drought.
You're right, yeah, that's,
Like
yeah.
this year, we had this weird drought because basically we didn't get rain until after the ground froze. And then we got lots of rain that just ran off and
Right,
didn't
yeah.
replenish the groundwater. And so it's only recently that we're out of a drought condition. Normally, we would have been replenishing our groundwater by February, we would start replenishing it, and we haven't been. So if that were to happen next year, theoretically, they could be they
Well-
could be using water in March at a time when we have outdoor drinking water use restrictions.
We're still in a drought, minor drought condition in the Northeast.
Yeah, right, but Massachusetts doesn't, our locality is not under a drought.
I
right now.
think, northeastern Massachusetts is, the Berkshires have been getting a lot of rain lately. So they're out of the National Weather Service issued that, a couple of months ago or a month ago. And, the Berkshires were fine in northeastern, Mass. And central Middlesex, I believe, we're still under a mild drought condition. And you can kind of see it by looking at the reservoirs.
Well, the other thing is they might well be trucking in their water.
Yeah, it's just, it was, they made a comment about the water. So.
But that's a good question. Would drought conditions affect their supply?
So. There was. Discussion of. Refusal in the bedrock may require termination shallower than 3 feet.
They were afraid that, if they hit a large boulder, they want to make sure that that's not bedrock. But, and it could be isolated boulders in there that they haven't seen. But if you have bedrock at a fairly deep depth and you hit a boulder, say 20 or 30 feet above that, chances are it's a boulder and not bedrock.
Yeah, but this was talking about not going in 3 feet if. Terminating it shallower than 3 feet into the bedrock. See if I can find it. This- Here it is. Talks about a wall depth ranging from 85 feet, 10 feet into the till to 100 feet, 3 feet into the bedrock, as feasibly depending on. And then it says refusal in bedrock may require termination shallower than 3 feet into the bedrock. So.
I think that means that they, if they hit a large boulder and they grind away on it for an hour, and the rig doesn't go anywhere, then that's considered to be, that's the criterion for refusal.
So. Okay,
How thick is the wall?
3 feet.
3 feet.
Yeah.
Are the slabs between the sections of the walls same thickness or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be a 3-foot wall all the way around.
Could we actually ask them for a diagram of, how they're gonna put the wall, how the wall's actually gonna go together?
There is,
Cause I'm still.
In this
not
document
sure.
or is it in the PowerPoint?
Well, they cut the trench and they grind into the. They're between two sections.
They grind 2 feet into the wall on both sides. They do a 12-foot section between an 8 feet of space. Ah, okay.
Hey, Ed, I had printed out some pages from the report in larger paper,
Yep.
and I'm looking at CTAC 308. So.
And Ray, that was part of the VHB engineered plan pack that was sent around on the 95%.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know what page it is, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
buried in there like. I don't know, in the around the 300-page mark, I think it was, so.
When they put the secondary panels in, between the panels that are
That's
already there. And they grind away on the panels that are already there. Are they gonna grind away on the front side or the back side, or does it matter?
Inside or the back side?
Yeah, so.
They're going to,
They're gonna dig in the middle.
they're gonna do the side.
Just, yeah.
Right, you have panels like this and you're gonna then replace them.
They're gonna alternate.
They're gonna put, so it's gonna be a dotted line of 20-foot wide panels. Of 20-foot line
Right.
dashes around the outside.
They have to
With
be,
8 feet between them, and then they're going to dig a 12-foot channel between those panels.
Right.
That they'll dig away 2 feet from each side of the panels that they've already put in to have a ground surface there to attach. So that when they build the wall, it will be seamless.
but does it matter if they put the secondary wall in front of or in back of the wall that already exists?
They're putting it
It's in the middle.
on the
It's
side.
in line, it's in line. Right.
Yeah.
I thought they were never gonna dig a trench into the lawn,
Yeah.
into the wall. So,
That's the containment wall alignment, and then.
Bruce did a nice drawing of, or the contractor did a nice drawing of this at the
Yeah.
presentation, and we asked if they add it to this, and I don't think they did. So,
Maybe, and that's maybe where I'm confusing PM, and I thought I saw it, but
Yeah.
and likewise, I didn't print every page, so.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? It can either be like this, or it can be like.
I thought it was a big.
gonna
Like
be
that, like
like
that.
that. They're going to be butt joints under here, because they're gonna drill out this much to make it so that when they butt these together,
Yeah.
that's grilled out, so there. Does that make sense? Theoretically, they're gonna match it all the way down 90 feet. They're gonna have the perfect angle so that they are not gonna miss by, and so it will be a 3-foot wall that's consistent all the way down with those butt joints. And by digging out that 2 feet of fill that's in the two 20-foot wide panels, right? Doing that will make that a rough edge that there,
Right.
that will make the
I'm
joints
not a
firm.
structural geologist, so I'd actually like to see a diagram of how this is gonna gonna go together. Because I'm still, well, I was definitely confused at the community group meeting, but I'm a little less confused now, but again, I'm not a structural person, so.
So we'd still like some diagrams about how the primary panels will link to
Yeah,
the secondary.
exactly, that's exactly my question.
And I'll have to point out, this was one of those things that Doug basically said. They do this all the time, they know what they're doing, and you have information that you're digging in the right place as you're doing it.
Yeah.
To confirm. So, what are you trying to do?
I'm trying, I don't know if it's like that, so I'm just gonna do this and so else.
Well, they certainly know what they're digging up because there's. They reuse the slurry.
Right. Right,
So.
which means they have to pump the slurry to a desanding operation. And then pump it back into the next.
Yeah, I thought they had that one already, so, but, okay. Ed, do you have any comments?
No, but I think that is all correct in terms of just the general aspect of the panels will align. That's what the guidance, kind of the top beam, the guidance beam is all about. And I think Pam's general description is correct, right? You're forming a kind of a rough kind of keyway there for the panels to align and lock in together to avoid any kind of cold joints in the wall.
You had commented on documents and made the comments about scheduling the deliverables not being put, you'd like to see when those deliverables of the documents referenced, you'd like to see the old documents updated with correct phone numbers or
Well, I'm
contact.
just at least confirming that, something dated from 2022. This has been confirmed or something on it versus a 2022 date for, and,
Okay. So was there anything else? We jumped from that to the
no.
other thing. Was there anything else about the documents that you were concerned about?
No, that was the big things. I mean, for example, the transportation and offsite disposal plan, which has been in a couple things. It's dated May 2023. It's red 3. It's just sort of like.
I know that, that Dick made a comment some time ago that the exit numbers, off of the major highways have changed, within the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So, we want to make sure that those are updated.
So,
If they refer to, exit numbers.
Mm.
maybe we can. Part of part of that, Pam, we can put in something about a statements regarding underlying documents that have already been presented, sure they've been adopted, like as an example, and I can word that one, so.
Okay.
And so likewise, just as we're doing this logistics of this, we need to respond by Monday. So,
I will try to keep on Doug to get more information out of him. So
Right,
we can
and-
try to get that
yeah,
file
yeah,
processed
so,
so that you can incorporate those comments. Did anybody else have any other comments?
No, I think I just kind of already mentioned my comments. I don't really have anything else. Other than the fact that it's gonna be really important,
Yeah,
and this is, just a comment, not a question, to get the, the vertical, make sure it's vertical, and not, off to one
yeah,
side.
so I think,
But I mean, they
Doug's-
should know that.
my comment was, so I was gonna say that my discussion with Doug about that was that was information that's available to them as they're digging
Yeah, I
it.
think they
And
said they had instruments. on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pad that goes in, and so they know exactly where it is.
yeah,
and
it's,
What its orientation is.
so,
I mean, maybe we'll see that in the work plan.
or may not, I mean, that might just be, that's standard. That's,
Yeah, I mean, are these instruments like on the drill rig itself? Is that,
yeah. It's the way I took it, I mean, it's.
so I heard comments that we're gonna make. We're gonna talk about flow till versus glacial till.
Yeah.
We're gonna discuss keying into the bedrock all the way around.
Yeah.
And we're gonna discuss the V-shaped cut, the differences in that footnote on page 16.
Yeah.
What's meant by
page
that,
19?
19.
19.
We're gonna, the question about whether we were gonna ask about the Tosca sampling or whether we've satisfied ourselves that that's. Were we gonna ask about it, or the 50 parts per million versus 1 part per million?
Yeah, I think
I think we decided we don't need to ask.
We don't
about
need to ask that one, I think we got
Yeah.
that, so.
We're gonna ask about how do they keep the slurry from the backfill from mixing for our information.
Yep.
We're gonna ask about the schedule of delivery of the QAP and the other documents that are referenced as
Yeah.
coming soon. And we're gonna ask about being sure that the supporting documents that are old have updated information with them, such as people's phone numbers, contact numbers, or exit numbers on
Yeah.
highways.
Yeah.
And also, a document, a diagram to show all those, you know, frost dummies, show us how those panels are gonna fit together.
That was a separate one. That was we would like to, still like the diagrams about how it goes together.
Yeah.
We were going to also ask them about whether they're trucking in water or using Concord water, and whether a drought conditions will affect their ability to do the work.
That's
because
actually a
of
good
water
point. That's a
supply.
good point.
Yeah, so.
And are we asking a question about when they terminate into less than 3 feet of bedrock because of the refusal, or there was no question?
I don't think there's a question. I think that's it. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Were there any other questions that comments that we were putting?
So my plan is, Pam, is I think I have all those. I will draft something
Okay,
and run it by at least you to
Okay.
confirm that we've
that
gotten
is
it.
what's in my notes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
and I'll try to get draft minutes out
okay.
shortly. If we can find, I'm happy to use your judgment about whether we should put comments in that Doug gives to you.
Yeah, well,
You know,
ideally we'll get them all in there because it's, I mean.
Yeah.
We can word them in such a way that one committee member, I mean, it's somehow just so that.
Yeah.
On that, you know, we're at the 95, there's not much room to change at this point, going forward, so,
Ed, did you have any other comments about this document or points that you'd like more information about this document?
No, I think you guys had a lot of good comments. And I was reading it to catch up, not necessarily to comment on necessarily, so, but I think you did a nice overview. Thank you.
Did you find anything really stupid that you didn't understand? That might.
Oh, geez, that's
word?
a leading question.
The document.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think generally I have a reasonable understanding of it, you know, not all the finer technical points, but certainly have a reasonable understanding of the construction typology.
Did anyone find anything in this document that disagreed with that PowerPoint of them describing what was gonna happen?
I have to go back and look at it, but nothing that struck my.
Yeah.
So I was, wait a minute, this is.
Nothing jumped out at me.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Pam, quick question on that. When you mentioned PowerPoint, is that on the website that I could refer to?
That's on our website, actually.
Yeah, that's
229
fine.
Main Street website. The
Yeah.
PowerPoints from all the presentations at the community meetings are put there, so you can catch up on stuff. And
Okay,
they're dated so that you can look and see that it was the most recent one.
that's great. Thank you.
So okay, so we've got everything done with the comments. We should think about committee scheduling.
Yeah, so, do you have the? Since I went over the chart, do you have a copy of the agenda?
I do not actually. have a copy of this one.
So let me.
There's that.
Yeah.
So the work plan, the remedial action work plan should be coming along pretty soon. Once they get the 100% approved by DEP or by EPA.
So we.
The work plan for what?
The work plan for the holding basin.
So you're saying
This is just a remedial design. They still got the work plan to come.
Yeah, the work plan in 100%, but,
Yeah, right.
so.
so we might think that would come out quickly after this?
I
Like
think
next
they'd like
month.
to get it out as soon as they get approval of the 95%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, was it March? Pam, is what our notes that the plan is for next year?
Right, they hope to start work in March.
Yeah, so therefore. And I have to talk to Kara again, but there was discussions of having a. Open meeting for people towards the end of the summer, early fall. we discussed this, I think, 2 meetings ago. The EPA would have, but
And the QAP is in the work plan, right?
We don't know where the clap is. It's supposed to be
The QAP
coming.
would be in the work plan, wouldn't it?
It'd be nice if they put it there, yeah.
it may be.
Get those two documents in the same time.
Okay, so this discussion, the question is whether we need to meet in July and August.
Well, we have, our agenda currently says July 18th. I have to check if this is true, because July and August 18th, which doesn't sound like they would be both on the 18th, but the third Friday for both those months. I have not, but I will put in a agenda with the town so they can,
A generic one,
generic one, yeah,
and then the week before you can cancel it.
cancel or. Partly why I amended this one, and it was not the week before, was to fix the Zoom link, but.
Yeah. Ed? So we haven't talked about whether you're interested in joining this committee or not. The committee, we're hoping to get Doug Gifford to join the committee. The Natural Resources Commission basically puts a person on our committee. That person doesn't have to be a member of the Natural Resources Commission when they are on our committee representing the natural resource, the board, right, natural resources.
Natural resources.
We had a Board of Health representative for many years who didn't, who wasn't a member of the Board of Health anymore, but she kept coming to our meetings and then would report back to the Board of Health once a year.
Sure.
So I don't know whether the NRC has come up with someone to replace Nick Pappas or not, but from my perspective, you would be an ideal person. And
Yeah,
you
I mean,
can see what our work is.
Yeah, so yeah, certainly I guess that ultimately would be up to Delia and the NRC, right? But
Well, it would only be up to them if you were willing.
yes, I'd be happy to, join in and assist where I can.
We generally set up a meeting for once a month, and then we often cancel that meeting if nothing's happening.
Sure.
Basically, every 3 to 6 months, there's a community meeting at the work site where people are invited to see what's happening, especially when they're coming out with a new document like this. And that's what the PowerPoints are. And that's a good time to get a tour of the site if you want to get out there to see it. So,
Yeah.
well, that would be really great if you would be willing to join the committee. So I'll let Delia know about that.
Yeah, sure. If you, that's fine. Happy to come into the committee in that manner. That's fine. And then Pam, if you do touch base with Delia, just let me know if I have to, do a green card, and formalize it that way, whatever you guys think is the best process.
I will talk to Delia and let her know that you're.
I think they're volunteer cards now, right?
They're online cards.
So
they're,
online card. Okay.
They're electronic volunteer cards.
So they're
Gotcha.
not green.
They're not green anymore.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
The town warrant either anymore, which is how we used to get them. So,
Gotcha.
So are you available on this time at this time for a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting?
Yeah, no, I'd say that's typically, my situation is I'm moving towards retirement, still somewhat active as I'm closing out my company. So, but usually have pretty good availability, so
That would be great. Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, well,
It's really comforting to me, the number of people in Concord with special skills that are willing to step up when we have these things going on in this cleanup.
Well,
Yeah,
it's taken a while to find them, but we know they're there.
Well, it's just this next couple of years that we really need this expertise in this, and then hopefully it will be done. So,
Figure this is a big project.
yeah,
yeah,
big
it is.
changes over time. Doug said he would also still be available for
Okay.
these 10:30 Friday morning
Good.
meetings if we
So-
schedule them. So,
Okay. Fred, were you able to talk to the library after I,
Found out that the special
Collection.
collections wasn't interested, they referred me to the reference section and I haven't
Okay.
found the woman in charge of the reference section
Did you
yet.
talk to Anka about this?
It's Barbara, somebody.
Well, no, the person in special collections, did you talk to Anka about it? Or did you talk to just someone? Cause she was the one that talked to me about
okay,
having this stuff, so I'm still,
I think it was her, but I've forgotten the name.
Okay.
She seemed very
Anka, yeah.
authoritative and knowledgeable.
Mhm.
you know, we've talked about. And I have not reached out town, you know. Town hall, but would this building be a better, I mean. I
Well,
don't want tossing, I'm just tossing out and I don't wanna put any more workload on. These guys either, so therefore,
There were times when we had maps that we basically took from the community meetings and we gave them to Marcia to make publicly available in the planning department for a while. Or when we were literally when we would discuss a particular document, she would have some pictures from that document that had been printed out
okay,
for that purpose, so.
I asked, when I was here a couple of years ago, I asked, Melanie if she had a place for just the maps. And she said no, so.
Yeah. So maybe speaking to planning about that.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, you know, I just made paper copies, but right, you can get them. Coded and likewise too, I mean, so to make them more durable than,
Right.
I mean, literally, I did that yesterday afternoon, that was like. So,
But you're gonna hang on to these. for
I'm
you.
hanging on to those, yeah,
Okay.
so,
You're gonna be like me, Ray, you're gonna have a whole collection of maps in your living room, your dining room, that's what I've got.
Well, they
I've
used to
got no
actually
way to get rid of them.
give us a couple of copies with the documents in the early,
in the old days,
in the
yeah,
old days, because it was easy for them to print it out.
yeah, so,
And we'd go to a public, community group meeting and they
Yeah.
let us take the documents that they
Yeah.
printed for the meeting, so
so,
they didn't keep them around in their office
So-
printed, so. So why don't you talk to Barbara, and then if the library isn't interested, we can talk to
Well, the
planning.
library has an intern that. And one of the things the intern's supposed to do is to organize, I think, the documents they do have.
Right,
Because they've got a lot of stuff that we've given to them in the past. And I would like to talk to that intern and see what he or she has in mind.
I'm laughing somewhat because. My wife's an archivist at UMass Boston. And they have and I'm discuss what it is or what, but. Some previous uppity up in the organization at one point accepted something. Without their input, and it's never even really part of their collection, they do show some of it, but. The organizations finally decided that gave it to them, they want it back, and it's like. The people within the archives are like, yes, we found these this stuff. So, and who knows what the art, you know, what the mindset is in the library now and
yeah.
this type of stuff, so.
Well, the other thing is that the library even though they are keeping their Sunday hours and they're not having to actually fire people, they have a much reduced budget. I mean,
Yeah,
they're discussing how to keep their sanitizers under control, budget under control. People use a lot of hand sanitizer at the library. So this may be just too
Yeah.
much for them right now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay,
Do we want to walk down to planning right now and?
well, what, I'd like to have is figure out who the new select board person is and see what their mindset is. Is in that this might likewise tie into, and I don't know how exactly, to
The
the,
planning at the site.
well, the planning at the site or the matrix, whatever the other organization that's now with the 5 locations or whatever type of. So. Yeah, may I go to a select board meeting in the near future and talk offline with some people, so,
You could just email Paul and ask him.
yeah, so. Okay. We got about 15 minutes before they're gonna lock up the building or whatever,
Okay, so we should probably quit.
yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
Yeah,
Oh,
do we?
can you stick with being chair for another year?
Sure,
Okay. I'll be
I-
glad to continue to be clerk for another year.
okay, so, yeah, so. No, I thought we already addressed all public comments, so therefore, so, okay, thank you. Actually, Ed popped off, so,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. I'm gonna stop the recording, which is